In this episode, we share recent news about federal student loans and also some ways to potentially fight back if you're being harmed by all that's going on. Let's get started. Are your student loan payments or loan balances a major obstacle in your financial life? Then tune in and let's escape student loan debt. Hello, my name is Brenton Harrison of Escape Student Loan Debt and your host for the Escape Student Loan Debt podcast. It is a terrible time for federal student loans, I know, but we are here today to hopefully help you sift through some of the information that you're hearing, tell you what to worry about, what not to worry about. And in this episode, some recent happenings that definitely impact you if you have federal student loans, specifically if you're trying to pay them using income-driven repayment plans. In the second half of this episode, we'll share some very brief ways that you can potentially fight back or at least be aware of people who are already fighting back for you. So what do I mean in terms of updates? In the last episode, we talked about a recent order or memo that was distributed from the Department of Education to federal student loan borrowers, or I should say federal student loan servicers, telling them that for the next 3 months at least, they should not process any applications that have been submitted for consolidated loans. They should not allow any borrowers on income-driven repayment plans to recertify their income. They should not process any new applications for any income-driven repayment plan. They also took the online applications down for these various programs. It was just a real mess. And I shared that I don't think that they would be able to do this for a full 3 months. But even in the interim, there was a group that I was really worried about. And that group was people who are on certain income-driven repayment plans who are supposed to recertify their income, but were not allowed to. The reason that group concerned me, or I should say I had concern for that group, is because one element of those plans is if you don't recertify your income, they will keep you on the plan, but they'll shift your payment to what it would take to pay off your loans in 10 years from the date you started repayment. And this has led to just some really frightening moments for people who have been getting letters that their student loan payment is about to just explode, especially if they're not aware that this is how these income-driven repayment plans work if you don't recertify. Matter of fact, if you're looking on screen, there's an article that we'll put in the show notes from the College Investor. You all may recall that we've had Robert Farrington on both this podcast and our separate New Money, New Problems podcast, Robert Farrington being the founder of the College Investor. But it's just talking about people who are reporting these letters that are just telling them that their payment's going to jump from a couple $100s a month to a few $1,000s a month. It's been really crazy. So yesterday, the Department of Education or the Federal Student Aid Office released some updated guidance to give more clarification on how they're going to handle this period when it comes to them not allowing you to get on new plans. But they also made an announcement that was not in that memo that was leaked. And that announcement is that they're extending the deadline for when people need to recertify their loans to at least February of 2026. So this is something that we saw very regularly in the Biden administration. It's the first time we've seen it in the Trump administration. So I want to make sure you have an understanding of what it means to say at least February 2026. As a recap, when you have an income-driven repayment plan, yes, you have to update your income every single year so they can calculate your payment, but you update it at the same time every single year, the same month of the year. So you can have an IDR anniversary date. And if that anniversary date comes before February of 2026, let's say that it's January of each year, then this functionally means that you won't have to update your income until January of 2027. It's not saying that everyone has to update their income in February of 2026. It's saying that if you were due to recertify your income before that date, you don't have to worry about it. They're kicking the can down the road so that if, in our example, you were to recertify in January, now you won't have to recertify till January of 2027. But if, for example, your IDR anniversary date is typically in October, then in October of 2026, you would have to recertify. As the article says, if you're reading, it says for borrowers impacted by the pause, this is a big win, as some had already reported seeing their monthly payments rise significantly. So this is what I was hoping they would do in the midst of all this chaos. Instead of having people just have their plans default to the 10-year option, at least say, okay, we're not going to let you recertify, but we're also going to let you continue on the payment that you are currently making. And it looks like they are doing that. Now, there were some additional elements of this announcement that you need to be made aware of based on your current status. So if you're on the SAVE plan, where you're currently on administrative forbearance, there's nothing in this announcement from the Department of Education that changes that. If you are on the SAVE plan, not only are your loans in forbearance, but they had already extended the date that you had to recertify your loans. So that's not been impacted at all. If you're on any of the other plans, income-based repayment, pay as you earn, those are the ones that are really impacted by this, where they're saying not until February 2026. What they did make clear in this announcement is they have not opened the applications again for those income-driven repayment plans. So even though they're, for people who are already on the plans, a bit of relief, they're not giving relief for someone who may be on, SAVE plan and trying to switch to pay as you earn or trying to switch to income-based repayment. They have still blocked those applications to this point. Now, they did make a distinction for people who had already submitted an application for income-driven repayment plan before this freeze went into effect. So if they had an income-driven repayment plan application that had been received, then it was technically in process. And what they're going to do is they're going to automatically put those loans into forbearance. So, for example, if I was on the SAVE plan prior to them making this announcement, I had tried to apply to get on the pay-as-you-earn plan. They're going to basically just say, automatically, you don't have to make payments. We're putting you into a forbearance. However, if there's an application that has not been received, then it's basically pending, and they're not going to process those applications. So it's a small distinction between the two statuses based on when you applied and whether they received it. An interesting point to that, however, is if you're looking at this, it says for borrowers who submitted that application before the processing pause, so those ones whose applications were received, it says you will be in a processing forbearance until application processing resumes. To me, that's interesting because we've talked about in the past that there's like a 2-month period where if your loans are in processing forbearance, you do get credit towards things like income-driven repayment and public service loan forgiveness usually. So that has been something that's been helpful for people who submitted an application to have their student loans consolidated or to sign up for a payment plan, and it takes them 3 months or 4 months to actually process it. 2 of those months or up to 2 of those months could count towards your credit. They are not making clear in this announcement whether they're going to follow that procedure of giving credit towards those programs for people who are stuck in this processing forbearance. So while some of this, I wouldn't call it good news, but it's better news. Hey, if I'm on that payment plan, I don't have to worry about it just jumping overnight. After the break, we're going to tell you how there are some institutions and organizations who are already forming to stage a defense or stage an attack to make sure that some of the rights that you have as a borrower that are codified. These are not things that are up to interpretation until Congress changes them. These are your rights. So there's some organizations who are already trying to form a plan of action, and we'll tell you about it right after this.
This is the Escape Student Loan Debt Podcast,
a show for established professionals whose student loan payments or loan balances are impacting their marriage, their business, their credit, or their dream of achieving home ownership.
We'll be right back.
Are you interested in learning the tools and techniques we use to get student loans forgiven, reduced, reorganized, or expedited? Well, great news. We're currently updating our flagship course, Escape Student Loan Debt, to reflect the current changes in the student loan landscape. To stay up to date on the launch of the course and opportunities to sit in on our live recording sessions, head to escapestudentloandebt.com and join our email list now.
You're listening to the Escape Student Loan Debt Podcast.
Subscribe now at escapestudentloandebt.com.
Welcome back.
Welcome back from the break. Before we came to break, I gave you a teaser about some organizations that are fighting on behalf of the rights of federal student loan borrowers. Now let's get to what those organizations are and what they're up to. The first is the American Federation of Teachers. This is a labor union, a national labor union for teachers. They are being represented by the Student Borrower Protection Center, and they are bringing a suit where they are suing the Department of Education for their blocking of access to income-driven repayment plans. So it is specific to what we were talking about, where you want to switch from SAVE to IBR, or you want to switch from SAVE to pay as you earn, or just you want to sign up for a new income-driven repayment plan in general. They are bringing suit against the Department of Education to have this access reopened. And I would also make sure that you reach out to your congressperson, reach out to your senator to let you know that you're one of their constituents who has been adversely impacted by this ruling, because they should know how many of their constituents are being burdened. And that political pressure on the Department of Education can mean a lot. And the hope is that they rescind or open up some of these things without having to go through the process, which could take a very long time, of going to court, having appeal, sending it up to a higher court, potentially all the way to Supreme Court, because in that period of time, there could be a lot of damage that is hard to undo. So make sure that you use your political voice as well and contact your representatives. And the next thing I want to make you aware of actually came from another person in the student loan space that I respect very much. His name is Attorney Stanley Tate. He runs Tate Esquire. Very heavy in the student loan space, and also very tapped into the comings and goings when it comes to when these things are released. So definitely someone that you should check out. I don't think he has a podcast, but he has a great YouTube channel. We'll put a link in the show notes. But also from the Student Borrower Protection Center, they are accepting stories of people who have been harmed. And he put a link in that newsletter with a survey that you can fill out to add to the strength of the lawsuits that they are bringing on your behalf. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that survey in the show notes as well as Stanley's contact information, not his email, but just the YouTube channel and things of that nature, so that if you like his content too, there's more than one of us in this space, and there's room in your life for more than one person who knows what they're doing with student loans. So I would highly advise you to check him out. He gives great information. So that's what I have for you today. I don't think it was a very long episode, but I haven't been watching my watch. But I hope that this was helpful. Our goal here is to give you as many ways as possible to have your student loans forgiven, reduced, reorganized, and expedited. I know that that task is getting harder by the day, it seems, with all the stuff that's going on. But I do believe that there's potentially some light at the end of the tunnel. And if that light actually does peek its head from around the corner, we will be the first to let you know. I'll see you in a couple weeks. From Escape Student Loan Debt, this was the Escape Student Loan Debt Podcast, a show for established professionals whose student loan payments or loan balances are impacting their marriage, their business, their credit, or their dream of achieving homeownership.